It's a very interesting and very unique use of bricks, which doesn't call for the use of any other insulation materials. It's not only a very wise project, but also graceful and beautiful.
The province of Shanxi lies deep in China's interior, more than 1,000 kilometers from the coast. People here traditionally make their living from agriculture, but increasing migration from the countryside to the cities means a gradual decline in infrastructure. In the middle of this landscape, in the small village of Shijia, John Lin, architect, professor and co-founder of Rural Urban Framework, has erected his reinterpretation of a self-sufficient single-family house, the so-called House for All Seasons.
On one hand, of course, House for All Seasons means it's a house that is really about engaging seasonal changes. It's also, for me, a statement about a belief in a kind of architecture. You know, that architecture, by being very stable, by being essentially permanent, unmoving, is a kind of a frame, and it relates to, in a sense, all the kind of ephemeral and ever-changing conditions, not just weather, but culturally and historically. So the reason for this house being here is really looking at not just the kind of seasonal changes, but a kind of transformation of rural life, you know, between tradition and modernity, and trying to make a link between these two. Why I like working in the rural and working nonprofit is that we don't have a sort of a single client. You know, our client is a kind of community of people. We work always with the village, and every project that we do is about a village itself. It could be a toilet, but how does it address, you know, the village? How does it fundamentally, through a single intervention, you know, begin to slowly change the village?
Originally, the structure was conceived as a single-family house. But another acute need arose, and today the House for All Seasons is used as a women's shelter. In the coming years, the Chinese government wants to urbanize 350 million people. A valuable, centuries-old culture of rural life could be abandoned. That's why John Lin's award-winning structure in Shijia can also be seen as an appeal to preserve this culture.
Essentially, what's happening in China is that a very long building tradition of sort of mud and brick and sort of wooden roof tiled buildings are being completely eradicated for a brand new construction, a kind of generic concrete and brick typology. Our question is whether these buildings are actually fulfilling the livelihood of the villagers, you know, as much as the traditional ones. So they're sort of in between these two types of buildings. There's nothing in between. And what we try to do is to, in a sense, take what's good from the old and to begin to combine it, you know, with certain kinds of modern technology.
The House for All Seasons is a prototype. While the foundation and primary structure are made of concrete, the walls consist of brick and clay. All of the building materials were manufactured on site and can easily be reproduced. Thus, the residents are less dependent upon building material suppliers. The structure is finished with an exterior wall, one that functions not only decoratively, but also to provide necessary ventilation. In the end, the building takes on the appearance of a gigantic brick.
Bricks for me is a really beautiful material, you know, because on one hand, it is extremely simple and it is extremely accessible, you know, and yet you can make very contemporary architecture with it. So it's a material that really readily spans between the kind of generic construction and contemporary, you know, architectural expression.
With an area of 12 by 32 meters and 4 inner courtyards, the building is very clearly organized. In the terraced beds, vegetables can be planted. The inner courtyards serve as spaces for washing clothes and drying grain. Beneath the structure, an underground biogas system provides the building with energy for cooking. The stepped roof also functions as a collecting tank for rainwater.
For me, the power of architecture is often something which is built in a particular location, so it kind of begins to relate very well, even though it also stands out. This kind of balance for me is very important.